America on the Mark Levin Show. Call now, 877-381-3811.
It's time for someone to act like a grown-up in this process, former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu argues, faulting Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Tea Party Republicans in the House, as much as President Barack Obama for taking an uncompromising stance. Former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour is just as pointed, saying this is about the Tea Party's refusal to support spending measures that include money for Obama's health care, quote, "It never had a chance," unquote. The anger emanating from Republicans like Sununu and Barbour comes just 3 years after the GOP embraced the insurgent political group and rode its wave of energy to return the power in the House. Mr. Thomas Beaumont, purported reporter for the Associated Press, you don't understand something, sir. The Tea Party movement came to be because of the final months of the Bush administration. This is why the Bush staffers hate the Tea Party conservatives, hate Ted Cruz, hate me and other conservatives. The Tea Party movement grew out of disgust with George W. Bush's administration, with TARP, with then using money from TARP unconstitutionally to subsidize GM and Chrysler. Massive expansion of the federal government. Massive increase in the federal debt. The Tea Party rose up not only in response to Barack Obama's election, but it began to rise up before his election. And this is something Thomas Beaumont at the Associated Press either doesn't comprehend or doesn't want to comprehend. So, of course, John Sununu, David Souter's mentor, George H.W. Bush's chief of staff, of course, Haley Barbour, Mississippi's pardon king, close, dear business friend of Karl Rove, have no stomach for real conservatives, constitutional Republicans. Listen to this one. Iowa Republicans are recruiting a pro-business Republican to challenge six-term conservative Representative Steve King, a leader in the push to defund the health care law. So in other words, the crony capitalist Republicans, the corporatist Republicans, the Chamber of Commerce Republicans, not the constitutionalists, of course, are now fielding candidates to take out Reaganites. Reaganites. In Michigan, second-term Tea Party-backed Representative Justin Amash is facing a Republican primary challenger who's more in line with and being encouraged by Republicans, more in line with pro-business Governor Rick Snyder. These men who are challenging them are not pro-business. They're pro-crony capitalism. They're pro-status quo. So much for the big tent, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm saying it's time to rebel against the Republican leadership and the Republican establishment. They want to fight, then it's a fight they should get. The article goes on to interview more than a dozen Republican leaders, officials, strategists at all levels of the party who blamed Obama for the shutdown, but also faulted Tea Party lawmakers in the House. You know, it's interesting, folks. But for 2010, when we conservatives rose up to take out Nancy Pelosi and the majority in the House, the Republicans wouldn't have the House. They wouldn't have the presidency. They wouldn't have the Senate. They wouldn't have the House. They'd have nothing. Nobody stopped them from having their John McCain nominated in 2008. They got who they wanted in 2012, Mitt Romney. The Republican leader of the Senate is who they want as the Republican leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell. The Speaker of the House, Boehner, the Majority Leader in the House, Cantor, the other one, whatever his position is, McCarthy, they're all Republican establishment, supported by the crony corporatists, the Chamber of Commerce. In other words, they have everything they want, but they want more, like liberals. Can't be dissent. What do we have? 3, 4, 5, 6 tried and true, solid conservatives in the Senate? Outspoken conservatives in the Senate? Constitutional conservatives? Can't just look at voting records. I mean, some of these guys throw votes away because they're needed or they're not needed or just to showboat back home. But I'm talking about people who speak out, articulate conservatives, day in, day out, issue after issue. Were there half a dozen? Maybe a dozen, okay? In the House, what are there? A couple of dozen? But they run the leadership. They control the leadership. And look at them. They wouldn't even have the House but for us. So this is what we're up against, and I'm just pointing out these. I read these things. You have very few Reaganites. Oh, well, what about Haley Barbour? Haley Barbour was not a front and center Reaganite. He was a backbencher. Yes, he was. I worked in the 76 campaign. I never came in touch with the man in my life. He was an operative then, and he's an operative now. And so we don't even know what the Republican Party stands for today. They're negotiating right now. Not allowed to use that word. They're talking to the Obama White House, and the Obama White House has put out word that they're feeling pretty good about it, which means they're caving. I spoke at the Values Voters Summit this morning. I already predicted the outcome of this, as I have on the air in earlier days. The debt's going to go up. The yearly deficit will continue to be massive. Obamacare will be largely untouched. They'll agree to this medical tax thing, and I brought that up a couple of weeks ago, as I recall. In other words, they'll throw us one. But you're screwed. No delay. No protection. Your health care will not be preserved. And so the Republican Party has to come out of this looking like they won something. Mitch McConnell will be cheered as a great leader, even though we never hear from the man. Boehner will be cheered as a great leader, even though he's all over the map. They kept their caucus together. They had to fight the Tea Party. And they got through that fight, and look what they presented. One of the greatest budget cutters, debt cutters, deficit cutters in American history, this McConnell, or this Boehner, or whatever. But for that damn Tea Party, wasted a month of our time, shut down the government, our poll numbers would be magnificent. These are losers, ladies and gentlemen. Losers. That's what they are. I think I read that Pete Wehner, friend of mine, who I couldn't disagree with more on a growing list of things, he said they're trying to modernize the Republican Party. Really? So they take this Bill Clinton word and now they apply it to the Republican Party. They're not modernizing anything. It's more of the same. In fact, it's decrepit. It's middle age and getting older. It's non-responsive. It's ineffectual. It stands for so little.